We're back with the Smart Driving Cars podcast. Great to have you with us once again. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Beautiful fall morning, isn't it?
Uh, my goodness, what a fall we've had. Or that's when's the last time it rained, or when's the last time we didn't have a bright sunny day? Well,
It's either 80 degrees or 40 degrees. One, so,
well, 40's still not bad, right? I
oh.
guess whenever it's a little 40 in the morning, maybe. Yeah.
Well, on top in the latest Smart Driving Cars newsletter, the third quarter earnings report and call from Tesla. You have links to them both and the commentary from Rob Bauer of
Yeah.
the Tesla Daily channel. Not so daily anymore, but still pretty good. On the numbers first, after a difficult first half of this year, revenues grew by 2% last quarter, but profit for the quarter jumped to $2.2 billion, and that's what got all the attention, I think.
I guess, but what I for whatever reason I happened to be watching or live and following with Rob as the announcement came out and as he read it to me, so I didn't have to read it and read it to everybody. And I just thought it was I just really liked his progression through it and his analysis of the numbers and his discussion. Yes, he is sort of a fanboy, but I just found the whole thing very refreshing and decided to link them for everyone to look, sort of as he was experiencing it live and making his comments, as opposed to, some of these reports that come out in the press and whatever and so on. Anyway, I just decided to make those available to people if they hadn't been watching. It was very interesting, and of course the results the following day yesterday. Well, I guess one could see the after hours trading had bumped, what, 10% or something like that, and then I guess everybody jumped on yesterday. I guess
I think they
today
were up
what
like 22% for the day yesterday.
22%, and today there'll be the dead cat bounce or the dead cat. I guess in the opposite way, whatever.
They used to
That
call it
that
profit taking. Maybe they
Yeah,
still
yeah, it'll be whatever. Oh, I know. As I buy high, I sell low. So, I'm happy
do.
camper.
During the call, Alan, Elon Musk told investors that the company will begin production next year of that under $30,000 vehicle. I think that's the one without the steering wheel and the pedals. Emphasized that the focus is on robotaxis and autonomous driving. I think he was asked about just making a $25,000 vehicle, and it's more like he's saying if it's not autonomous, he's not really interested. So that's where the focus is on the company.
It seems that way, and of course, that's what I liked hearing on it, because of their singular focus on making the technology that will allow the safe operation of these vehicles, by that technology from A to B. And of course, I've sort of rolled my eyes on the concept of doing that in a two-passenger vehicle, um, uh, because of course I don't think that that's the way it should go, because uh, because I don't think that's the way to give rides to people. I
Well, they
think
are going to
it's
be
just
starting
too
with the
small.
Model 3s and Model Ys, and they'll
Yeah,
have
yeah,
pretty much the
yeah,
same capability.
absolutely. And I think if you, depending on how you want to parse his response, it basically says that the two-passenger vehicle is not anything that's going to come, or the vehicle that they showed and that's been displayed for the past 5 years as a concept or whatever is not really what they're talking about. And it just, if you're going to be in the car business, to sell cars to consumers. Some people buy two-seaters, and some people, but most people are buying, things that can carry family and friends every once in a while anyway. And so even as he said, the market for the Roadster, when he was asked about the Roadster, it's sort of coming along and so on and so forth. But it's, what do you call it? The cherry on top of the icing on top. It might even be whatever you put on top of the cherry. So I think those are, I would imagine the investment community took that in a very positive way, because unless you're a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something, it's tough to make money on those cars unless you carve out that niche for yourself and you really work at them. If you're going to do mass consumerism, that's just not the vehicle. So it's good that they're talking about really making the driverless capabilities work in vehicles that can at least carry a few people some of the time, which is really what we think is the right approach to driverless mobility. Yes, most of the time you're only carrying one person, but some of the time during the peaks, you're carrying a few people. And that's where it becomes important. Because if you're only carrying one person during the peaks are just going to get worse. But if you carry a few people and so on during the peaks, then things all of a sudden become interesting. As I've always said, if the average vehicle occupancy in the peak direction on Route 1, or the Route 1s of this world, was 3 rather than 1, there'd be no congestion. Okay. It doesn't have to be 30. It doesn't have to be 15, just 3. And 3 real average vehicle occupancy, meaning that the people traveling there are people that otherwise would have been in their own car, which today are in their own car. And usually when you see a couple people in a vehicle, one of the person is just behaving as the FSD. It's doing the driving. It's chauffeuring somebody.
Front seat driver, is that?
FS front seat duffer or something. I don't know. I don't know what the D stand for. Don't know that way. But that's what happens out there.
Right.
Part of the reason why most towns are like clogged in the morning and around 3 or 4 o'clock whenever school's let out is because people are taking kids to school or picking them up and then taking them to their next activity. Half the cars are actually empty. It's just the person, empty repositioning the vehicle to pick up the kid at school and take it to its next activity. So,
One of the
so that's the
interesting things he said,
opportunity.
Alan, was that older Model Ys, Model 3s could be upgradable. With the ones with the hardware 3, if the newest technology doesn't work on them, which apparently may be the case, that he said it's not a big deal they were designed to have the computers fairly easily replaced.
Well, I would imagine the computer is like plug it in, plug it out. It's strapped down or something like that. It's not that at other cars that you have all these different processors located, who knows where, all over the car. It is a central processor in the vehicle that manages all that. So I would suspect they can hook this stuff in. Hopefully, they don't have to replace the cameras. There are no LiDARs to replace, thank goodness. And I suspect so. Although, one of the interesting things about algorithms is yes, you can make them so that in fact they require you sort of brute force it, and more and more and more capabilities, processing capabilities, get you more and more. Although, if there's a breakthrough, new software can also be can also use less computing to do the same thing. So if you're trying to do more and more, you could do it with more and more computing or more and more elegance in the way you're computing. So given the amount of work that they're all doing, and sure, they're working down using more and more computing, more and more information to do what they want to do. But it's not unreasonable to think that, in fact, um, with some breakthroughs on the elegance side, one may be able to do this more elegantly, and in fact, not need level 4 computing, level 3 or whatever they have in there to do it just fine. So anyway, I know that's maybe that's altruistic of me to think that or something like that, but that is certainly possible. So yes, they're trying to make whatever they're doing and improvements they're making to also work on their previous generation of compute hardware that they have in the car. But they may also be
Encouraging for a
able
lot
to.
of owners, I'm sure. So
I think it is encouraging for a lot of owners. I mean, that's. I think the whole structure of the way they've approached this with the over-the-air updating and so on and so forth is very encouraging. The farther the more we advance doesn't necessarily mean the more compute we need or the more memory we need. Maybe we can become more elegant with less compute and less memory. It seems as if the collision avoidance problem has an elegant solution looming someplace, because a lot of things do collision avoidance with what is seemingly not a heck of a lot of compute. Think about it. You know, amoebas find food. Whoa. And what's inspirational about John Hopfield getting the Nobel is because, much of the whole inspiration of what he did is said, my goodness, I'm going to take physics and I'm going to look at biology and try to marry those two things, two things that, of course, I'm not very good at, but I certainly like the approach.
interesting. So the plan is at Tesla, Alan, to offer service in Texas, which I guess is going to be easy for them in terms of approvals, and California, where they've said that they're already doing some testing with employees behind the wheel, and
Well,
and then expand elsewhere.
Fred, we give rides. Why don't we say that we're
We're
doing
testing.
experiments in New Jersey? Ooh, what are they doing? I mean, with employees, what's that?
Right.
I
Now
think you can do
he's
that
called for
everywhere.
he's called
One,
for a federal approval process to speed things up. What are your thoughts about that instead of going
well, of
state by
course, it
state?
it probably should be federal, or federal should say, or yes, of course, somebody's got to start saying that this is really having having this a system that watches over what's going on while one is driving and providing help, and maybe providing substantial help, or maybe even doing the whole darn thing, is really valuable. And in some sense, maybe NHTSA is on board with this, although it's hard to see that, but they should be. All I know is my own personal experience for where I sit personally, my opinion for whatever, not to try to make a buck, Although why not? But not for that is, my goodness, these things look 360 continuously, or every 20th of a second or whatever it is. When I drive at night in New Jersey, I've hit 7 deer in my life that have come out of nowhere, I claim. Okay. And for me to look out for deer as I drive at night, this is the way I do. I look here, 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 I look here. It takes me time to look here, cognitive cycle to figure out, a couple of cognitive cycles to figure out what's going on, and then look over here. Do I see any? These things are doing it continuously all the time, both direction, here and here and here. That's not good. NHTSA shouldn't be on board to say, "Oh my goodness, heck yeah." How do we help instead of, "Oh my goodness, whatever"? I don't know. All I know is that next car I buy will definitely have that capability, because I'm tired of. I mean, my head, I'm on a swivel, and I got to look forward to make sure I don't hit anything. I
Speaking
guess
of NHTSA,
whatever.
Alan, the NHTSA is looking into Tesla FSD in the wake of several collisions, they say. Teslarati reporting that they aim to assess FSD's ability to detect and respond to reduced visibility conditions. There is a warning if the car is using FSD, there's a warning when it's degraded, whether there's a mist in the air or for whatever reason. But there have been some crashes involving reduced visibility.
What's NHTSA done to tell drivers don't drive in fog in San Francisco? Anybody ever drive in fog
Or sun glare, or you name
or
it.
sun glare? Okay, sure, of course, yes, please, NHTSA, do that. I mean, if you were really interested in safety, you'd have an interlock system in the car that if somebody's over the limit, doesn't start. Can't say you don't have the technology to do that. Well, I know you don't have the political oomph to do that. But if you're really interested in safety, and sure, yes, investigate every one of these. Absolutely. And if you can point to improvements, I can't suspect anybody doesn't want your contribution to that. Absolutely. Please do that. Is this your lowest hanging fruit? I don't know. Maybe. I guess it is, since you put it out there. Good. Do it. Make a recommendation. They'll over the air update it and fix it. I don't think anybody's going to say, "Oh no."
Right. Alan, you've spoken before about the value of this technology in trucking, in improving the safety and the quality of life for drivers. Musk had remarks pretty much echoing those sentiments during his call this week. He said the more senior drivers for PepsiCo, which has been testing Tesla semis, have become big fans. They're grabbing them whenever possible. I guess there's competition for who gets to drive the Tesla rig, and they're snatching them up as best they can.
Well, yeah, I tried to listen to that, and I jumped on, hey, he must mean not only the electric piece of it, but also the FSD piece of it. And I couldn't quite pull it out that he was really talking about them
My impression is that
introducing.
FSD is not out there on the semis yet. I mean, they have
That's
autopilot,
my
but not FSD.
impression. That's my impression. And so, sure, EVs, great. We're all for them in some sense. Okay. Um, I think that he puts FSD on there, supervised FSD. Um, um, I I think that will really improve the life of truckers. They sort of I mean, they think of what automatic transmission has done for them. Okay, because they are pretty much automatic transmissions. Instead of going through 18 gears, people have put automatic, I guess, in the equivalent to automatic transmission in those trucks, and certainly in EVs, the shifting piece of that. I haven't been in one, but is sort of not a non-function. I mean, it does it. That's not what the driver has to do. That in itself would probably make drivers very happy.
Well, the EV aspect gives them the acceleration that they've never had in a truck, and also fewer worries about going downhill.
True, true, and of course the regenerative braking aspect of it that's built into the system. So instead of burning it up with heat, or burning it up with your brakes, or burning it up with your tires, you're regenerating that. My goodness, that piece by itself, what other folks were doing in terms of trying to capture that energy, recapture that energy from going up a hill, now you're going down a hill in non-electric drive systems, was always substantial in trucking, and remains. Now it's comes out of the box. It's part of it. And so when one looks at that, one has to be somewhat encouraged at the opportunity to do that. My point is if you put supervised FSD on top of it to help the driver, okay, then all of a sudden the driver, I think, is a happier camper. I don't think the driver is just going to fall asleep and become, whatever. Although maybe some of them do already, but trucking is a tough job. It's a really tough job. I mean, you have to sit there and pay attention, 10 hours a day, and if you don't, you die. And it's well known. It's fundamental to driving for that. Now you put it somewhat that helps them out, that gives them a get out of jail free card when they need it. Wow, I think.
Right. Well, the
And
cars
I
have what,
suspect
nine?
that
The
that's
cars
it.
have like
But for,
9 cameras, and
yeah,
the trucks would have probably more.
but what's interesting about all of this to me is that Tesla has built and is operating compute environments to be able to improve FSD for not only this car or that car, but that truck. And the solution, the coefficients, the things that go into the, call it AI, are different for the truck than for a Y, than for an X. And since right now it seems that all of that business is compute limited, I mean, that's why NVIDIA is doing so well. Everybody's trying to, what's he have? In his compute center in Austin, I don't know. What he announced? 30,000 H100s, got them up in whatever number of days, or whatever that the number is, and he has 20,000 more. And can you imagine somebody going and competing to do that? They have to put in the order, and NVIDIA has to agree to deliver at some point in the future the H100, or the Blackwells, or whatever the new ones are going to be, and put those guys together and get them working before they can even start to try to compete. Can anybody catch him? I don't think so. I don't know.
He's saying that other car makers may regret not focusing on autonomy the way he has, but I guess we shall see.
I don't know. I might say with somebody that far out ahead of you, you better have a new elegant approach to leapfrog that. I don't see how you catch that unless you do. And I think it's out there someplace, but I'm not aware of it.
Well, Cruise, the wholly owned subsidiary of GM, lost $435 million last quarter, resuming driverless testing at the same time. They've removed safety drivers in some Houston tests now. This is fairly new, putting them in the passenger seat instead. But you had some comments about that.
I don't get it. I mean, who am I? But I don't get it. One, what do you spend 400 million on in a quarter and not seem to move the needle at all? I mean, what are all those bodies doing? I mean, I guess it's going to salaries. You're not designing or building the origin vehicle anymore. What are you doing? I don't know. You know, we're trying to start to give rides in Central Jersey. I mean, yeah, I think we spent $4.65. So, but that's, you know, that's a lot of money to spend in a quarter, and then to say that you're going to you won't you'll only lose 2 billion next year. Doing what? Giving a couple rides? How much are each of those rides costing you? What 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 are you spending on capital expenditures? What do you depreciate? What? I don't know. I guess again, I guess I know nothing about business. So what? That's just amazing. Why would you remove the driver from the driver's seat, or go out there and say you're driverless testing? To me, that's like an oxymoron. What what benefit do you get out of testing without a driver in the vehicle, or without an attendant, or really doing driverless? There are two reasons why you need to be able to do this thing without a driver, and it is because you have to do empty vehicle repositioning. You have to have the opportunity to be able to move a vehicle from A to B without anybody in it. Why? Because if you leave it at A, you can't make any use of it. And so you want to move it to B so that you can do something with it. Otherwise, you could say, hey, I'm only going to serve people. I'm only going to give rides to people who are going to sit there and pay attention and be able to take over and save the day if they need it, and let them use the vehicle. That's fine. You can do that. Now, I guess, I don't know, maybe that's what Elon has in mind, or what Tesla has in mind to do with that. But you can't give rides to people who for whatever reason can't drive or don't want to drive unless you can do empty vehicle repositioning. That means there's nobody in there. Okay? Now, why would you ever want to test that without anybody in there? Why would you ever take the risk? Oh, you could save a few bucks on the person that's in there while you're doing the testing. Great. Holy mackerel, you're going to lose $2 billion. Take part of that $2 billion and spend it on it. But the risk reward trade-off on that little decision makes no sense to me. Now, if you're in business, trying to, let's say, have your $2 billion, instead of losing $2 billion, give rides to people. Maybe that's 2 billion rides at $1 or 200 million at $10 a ride. Okay? If you're doing that and you're trying to do that and generate that revenue, then absolutely you can. The number of vehicles you need out there, the number of rides you have to give, the time, the labor cost of doing that just to have somebody in the vehicle to be able to do empty repositioning, you'll lose your 2 billion and your 4 billion. And maybe a whole bunch of billions on top of that. Because if we could actually put a person in there to reposition the vehicle to do the rides now you wouldn't need the technology. You could just say person, hey, you have a driver's license, you drive the car. And then when it drives out here, then we'll have somebody reposition it over here. And then, hey, you drive the car. And hey, you drive the car. How many businesses are out there that do that? I guess Zipcar maybe. It is an interesting concept. How disruptive has it been in the mobility space? I guess it exists, but it's not disruptive. What makes it disruptive is the ability to empty, reposition the vehicle. So you can use here, 2,000, 1,500 rides a month, then you're in business. And to test that, I don't know. I'd always, in the testing, man, I have somebody in there. Because of course I have this sugar daddy that's giving me all this money, and that's a good place to spend that money.
And of course, the other piece, Alan, to not having the driver in is be able to provide affordable rides to people.
Well, of course it is. Otherwise, we have Uber Lyft.
Right.
Why after? How long's Uber Lyft been around? It's been around for more than 10 years now, I guess. I don't know. I've forgotten what the initial disruptive dates were, but 10 years. How disruptive has it been? It's less than 1% of the person trips a day. It's a fine business. Maybe. I guess they have to deliver lunches to do whatever, but it's fine. Still in existence. But it hasn't been disruptive. Shook up the taxi industry, but the taxi industry was never disruptive. People went out and bought cars. Why? Because they decided, geez, even if I use this car less than an hour a day on average, it's fine that I've invested in it. I use it to store my golf clubs and so on, or however else they justified, or to go out in the middle of nowhere sometime, as all the car commercials claim that I think I want to do with my car. So we've done that. Why? So that it's available to us when we want it to go to where we want to go, as opposed to whoever is providing rides where they decided to provide the rides when they decided to provide the rides. Instead of us fitting into their schedule, this thing fits into ours. And for those of us that can afford it, we buy these things. And then we buy multiples. And then we buy toys of these things. Oh, yeah, and it's great for the economy.
Alan, CNBC reports that Chinese companies are aggressively developing autonomous vehicles. No surprise there. We've been hearing about that. But they've been testing in the U.S. The piece says the U.S. government now has proposed a ban on Chinese connected vehicles. Missy Cumming, our friend, is among those quoted here, saying the ban would be a good start.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think back of the 1950s and 1960s with the Russians and Russian spies with their, I'm going to take a picture here, a picture there, and chasing Russian. I don't know. Maybe that's just the images that I have from when growing up. There, and then microfan, somebody picking it up. I mean, and today, what do we have? We have cars with lidars and bidars and schmidars and who knows what
You
R's.
got cameras mounted on every corner anyways.
And you got cameras all over the darn place. I mean, yeah, and have yeah, and basically see everything. Sure, and so. And plus, who knows what they have up there in satellites? What do they do with all that information? It seems like they better have some really great AI that somehow sniffs through all that stuff and finds out what the heck they're looking for, because there's a lot of noise in all that information, a lot of boring stuff. Oh, great. Yeah. We should improve our relations with China, I guess, and figure out how we can both survive in this world and be happy campers rather than the way we're headed. And that's true with all other societies too. I don't know.
Well, finally, before we wrap things up, Alan, a little headline from Forbes
Oh
that you may or
no.
may not want to comment.
Oh no.
The Princeton endowment reports the lowest 2024 investment return of the Ivies. They notched a 3.9% investment return in fiscal 2024.
And after losses in the previous 2 years, guess what? Guess what the secret is? They adopted the Kornhauser investment strategy. Jesus. I mean, I thought I was the worst performer. Um, they may have beat me on that one. Oh my goodness. I, I guess since I hope most of their investments are not liquid because they don't need to be, that who knows how in the heck they're marked or valued. But I suspect you can just put out the lower the value of the endowment, the less they have to spend. I don't know what I know nothing. Sorry, no comment. Maybe we should cut that out of what.
Let's focus on the rankings where Princeton is number one overall.
We're number one in poor performance in endowment. I think at one point we used to be proud of having great performance. Maybe we can be proud of having poor performance. I mean, we're returning more to the rest of the economy, I guess. In that, that might make sense.
I'm not sure what kind of.
Whoops.
We'll have to check with
Look,
the economic folks.
hey, anyway, it's a beautiful day here in the fall. Let's have a positive outlook. And everybody go out and vote as soon as you can vote. Vote however you wish to vote. That's your right. That's your responsibility. Go do it.
Wise words. Well, you can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching, and please continue to stay safe.
And happy Halloween.